Good morning. Good morning. It's Wednesday Wisdom, and I am here with the beautiful Brenda Rogers. I actually really love this. Like, as you know, last year and for 3 years, we've had a different woman on each week, and it's to highlight and promote, the women of light and who's around and what's going on. And this year, I just felt to do it a little bit differently. And this year, we're diving deep. We're diving deep with, and I really wanted to share some of my soul sisters, some of the wisdom of my soul sisters, and the conversations that we have off screen, and bring that into into a shared community and a circle, and bringing that conversation through. So today, Brenda and I'm going to give Brenda the opportunity to share who she is again. We haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, I'm Elizabeth Eleanor. I am the founder of the Women of Light community. But today we're going to be talking about wellness as a spiritual journey. And so I'm going to hand it over to Brenda to share who she is to start with, and why she's got, why she can even discuss this. And then we'll just start our conversation, right?
Oh, I'm going to make a bold statement to you, Elizabeth, and say that I am a high priestess.
Awesome. Which I just got tingles all over my body.
And so many of us are, so many of us operate in the real world, but also operate in the temple world. The high priestess world is the temple world, the sacred temple. And, when I think of the sacred temple, I think of all these rooms and gardens, and in that room is wellness, and in that room is business, and that room is finance. And in each room, there's this goddess, this priestess that is like the champion of that
domain sort of thing.
Domain. Yeah. And when we step into that temple in our dreams, in our yoga practice, in our meditation, in our walks in nature, or however it is, I think swimming in the beach and watching the sunrise, we're stepping into the temple, that we can access that wisdom. And, you talk a lot about new ways of doing things and shortcutting. And when I was in Africa many, many years ago, we went on this long trek, and it was absolutely in the middle of nowhere. Like, there was just desert and trees popping up for miles and miles. And we were intentional in coming across this little village, and they lived in huts and dirt floors. And I was being presented to the medicine woman, the shamanic medicine woman. And she didn't speak English, of course, but we had a lady there who was translating, and she used knuckles, like from animals, the knuckles, like we were playing with kids, right?
Yeah.
She would divine, like people would come to see her, and she would divine with these knuckles. She'd sort of throw them down to see what that person needed and what was going on for them. And she'd become a healer because it had sort of, it's like that reluctant, it landed in her. She'd had a few issues herself, a few health challenges. And then, it was like she was deemed now the healer, the medicine woman. And she accepted that. But the way that she didn't do any study.
Yeah. Wow.
The way that she knew everything, the plant medicine and the pregnancy issues and all that kind of stuff, it was all downloaded.
Yeah.
She just accessed one of the health room in the temple.
Yeah.
And she knew it.
Yeah.
Knew it. And I thought, you know what, especially since my 50s, the amount of knowledge that I feel like has just absorbed into me has been phenomenal. And I think it's the case with a lot of women out there that reclaim this healer role in the household and reclaim their intuition, and then suddenly they have this knowledge of, if they listen, if they're training themselves to listen, to to be in water. Water is a very feminine thing, but to be in water, or to go for a walk, or to be restful, or whatever it is. And I think it's a lovely thing to learn. And I mean, I studied naturopathy 30 years ago and nutrition 30 years ago. So I thought you had to be trained in it. And, that's our culture, right?
Well, that's Western. Yeah, that's the Western way, right? Yeah. And you've got to have the certificates and, all of the documentation to show that this is, that you've got the right to do this. And it's really interesting because what you've just shared, I shared on Monday, pause, was that thread, watching that trail of how that wisdom comes through. And, we just talked about how the bark flowers have come to sing to me, so that and that's what I'm going to be stepping into is because I've studied that way back, but it's not the knowledge from then that I remember. It's the connection in the opening to the plant.
Yeah.
That's supported me to make up some remedies at your place the other day. So,
and I think food has a story the same. Plants have a story the same. I went for a walk this morning, and just near me there's a park area that's cordoned off from the roads, and it's got all these river gums in it. And these river gums, they're kind of ancient looking and a bit eerie looking because they're very twisted, and the foliage is quite high, and the rest is all these twisted stems and trunks, and I thought, I've just got to walk through these. I've just got to talk to the trees and woo-woo hippie thing stuff, right? But it just feels like it's becoming more accepted in our we've been doing this stuff for a while, and but I'm recognizing that it's becoming more accepted, or at least becoming more attractive. Women are moving into, I need this in my life. Yeah.
Women are becoming, starting to remember that they need this. Yeah. That the old way is not working. It like old way as in the last 100 or so of go action, stuff our food in our mouth while we're doing a corporate meeting or dealing with kids or whatever it is. And we discussed that at your Sacred Nutrition course or workshop on Friday night, which was such a beautiful. It was so wholesome. 7 women. I loved the way you danced in and out of the kitchen, like from we were all sitting together just in the lounge room in cups of tea and then back into the kitchen and doing stuff in there. And if you want to share, let's talk about food and wellness on that level, because I know how it affected me, and I'm really good with my health relatively. Yeah. But can I just share with you? I haven't shared with you. I stayed at your house, and so the next morning woke up and went to visit my daughter, and I was a bit early for when we were going to catch up. So I went to the shopping centre, and I'm walking through the food court, and I just had this divine, sacred moments with food and women, and I'm walking through everyone getting ready. It was like 10:30 or something, And I was thinking, I do feel like something to eat, but what is there? Like there's, there was nothing calling me after feeling, that aliveness of food again and that connection with food again. And I found a fish and chip thing that had salads on the side, and I got myself a little tub of tabbouleh and coleslaw. And that's what I had, and a bottle of water. And just the feeling of that compared to anything else that I could have eaten. And, I'd like to share that, as we talk about the vibrational aspect of food as well, right?
Yeah, well, that comes between creating a relationship to the food. It's that I've got strawberries growing outside, and I could just pick them and, take. But I've, as my wellness journey is unfolding, because it never ends, you're never there. As I've started to really identify my wellness journey to be this sacred journey, this spiritual journey, I have in the past picked the strawberries, and because they were because you have to pick them slightly not ripe, because otherwise they get eaten first by the bugs, right? So I picked them when they've still got the chemicals in them that prevent the bugs eating them. And then I sit them on my windowsill in the kitchen and wait for them to ripen. And, I've got these big, gorgeous ones that I can buy from the supermarket, not very expensive. And, they look absolutely divine. And my little scrawny ones, are just kind of sitting there. And a few times last summer, I didn't eat them. I just left them there and then put them in the compost bin.
Yeah.
In the kitchen. And I just felt like
so easy to do.
Yeah.
Because visually, right? Yeah. The visual of the two, yeah.
So I don't really have that feeling of loss or anything with anything that is in a packet from the supermarket, but there was something about the daily watering and the watching and the getting the bugs away, and then finally this little treasure and picking it. I'm asking permission now. May I? Sometimes I don't wait for an answer, so I'm learning. May I? And bringing that into. So there was this relationship formed, and so this year I've made a very concerted effort to not waste them, because it's feels like it's a bit like they've given me a gift and I've gone, don't want it.
Yeah.
I've been ungrateful.
Yeah.
And I think, I'm working this year on my relationship to money and abundance and receiving and all that kind of thing. And there's these little tiny messages telling me you're ungrateful. You're being given a beautiful gift and you're throwing it away.
Yeah.
And don't do that. And so it reminds me, I don't know if you've read the Anastasia books.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Man. That
opened my eyes. But I remember, I think it was the first one, because I read the whole set.
Yeah, me
the first
too.
One where he meets the woman and she says, she's talking about plants, and he had a lemon tree or something in the front yard. And this lemon tree every year would pop out these lemons, just waiting to be noticed, waiting to be picked. And every day he would just walk past them, and probably with a bag full, or his wife maybe a bag full of lemons from the supermarket. And I just had this image, this feeling of, he doesn't want my lemons.
Yeah,
It's really bizarre, but
that
stuck with me and told me there was a relationship to be had, a give and take. And also then helped me to start to open up to that. So I actually can feel it, because you're talking about with your food and with your bark flowers, that you're listening to the messages,
the trees through, and the seaweed and that.
So it's more about that, the listening, the being guided,
And you know, as I shared, we've got a strawberry plant in our backyard as well, and we had one strawberry come up the other day, and Tim and I had half each, you know, like, and the sweetness, like my mouth's salivating right now at the, you know, the sweetness of that pop in your mouth, you know, like and that's what we did in your one of the things of, you know, reconnecting in the sacred nutrition, reconnecting with the texture and the flavour in your mouth and the sensuality of food.
Yeah.
And all of these things are the spiritual aspect of health, right? Of wellness is bringing that awareness back, at that openness to a relationship with another living being. Yeah.
And, you know, to me, sacred is the honoring, you know, and it's the ritual, and it's the presence that you have, and it's paying attention with the senses, because that's how we're communicated to from the temple. Being able to savor the gift, and, you know, the reward to the giver is the joy. And so how many of us don't enjoy food, or, you know, have a love-hate relationship with food, or, you know, are upset by our relationship to food or our behavior around food. And we wake up in the morning and, you know, it's like another day of self-restraint, or, you know, some kind of personal abuse that around food. It's like, you know, can I withstand the temptation? Can I be disciplined today? Can I be a good girl today? And you know, there's nothing sacred about that kind of conversation going on in our head. There's nothing. You're not being invited to experience joy in any way. And one of the beautiful things that I know about the joy meter is you don't, it's not a craving like pleasure. Pleasure, you know, the pleasure of food can be a craving like sugar, but the joy of food is a whole body experience, and it lasts a long time. That strawberry is very satisfying for a long time. And I think some of our hunger is not hunger for food or nutrients. It's for sacredness.
Yes, absolutely. And that spiritual connection and that aliveness.
Yeah.
And absolutely. I was just listening to you, and one of the things that I remember from our circle was how many of us said we were often unconscious when we were eating. It was just something we were doing to feed the belly, you know, or feed the as you pointed out, feed the bad bacteria that's actually creating, you know, chemicals in our body to stay alive themselves, hence the cravings and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, when we eat a live food and we become present and we bring that sacredness, our vibration, our being, our expansion, our energetic upliftment and connection to source and all of those things happen. And yet when we feed those cravings and become unconscious and allow those bacteria to thrive on the sugars that we're consuming and comfort eating and like like all of those things, the disconnect, right? The disconnect to spirit, the disconnect to ourselves, to our self-nurturing, to like we go in depression, anxiety, all of those things. We feel heavy and disconnected to ourselves, let alone anybody else, like, and it's rampant.
Well, the message, to me, the message from spirit, especially around bodies and food, has always been very, very simple. And in fact, it's binary. And you either feel yuck or you feel yum. And what you're talking about is all this yuckiness that we feel. Well, that's a message from spirit that you're not doing the right thing.
Yeah.
You're missing something. And right, I know I shouldn't use that word. I shouldn't either.
We're so conditioned, right? We're so conditioned. It's just like, it's just the way we are. Yeah.
Yeah. So, the yum feeling coming through as the result of our behaviors is a good thing to look out for, because that is, I'm on the right track, and to follow that thread rather than the avoidance of the yuck. We were talking about this the other day. I think it's really important to go for yum rather than to run away from yuck.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And so for those, excuse me, for those women, and this was, important, because you're going to be doing these sacred nutrition classes in person and online, which is great, like being able to share with a bigger community. For those that live in the city or, live in suburbs and, feel disconnected. I actually had, was online, my business mentor did something last week, and any of her clients got to come on to a private session afterwards, and she was talking about the feminine, and this woman was over in America and she was saying, I'm going for walks, what else can I do? Because she's very much in her mind and blah, blah, blah. And she said, what else can I do to connect to the feminine? I'm going for walks and I'm doing my yoga. And so another woman said, go connect with nature when you're going for your walks and blah, blah, blah. And we were talking along those lines. And she said, oh, okay, so I'll have to find some, because I live in the city in America somewhere. And I put my hand up straight away, and I said, hey, right behind you is a plant. You've got a plant in behind you in the background. When we get off, turn around and look at that plant. I moved from far north Queensland in the rainforest, and I moved to the suburbs of Sydney, and the only thing that kept me sane was hearing crows, seeing crows, and the trees. I'm looking at trees now, like you see a tree, you can connect with it. And so I forget where I was going with that.
Yeah, I think that is.
Oh, that's what I was going to say.
Connecting to nature is to have indoor plants and to,
Yeah. Where I was going with that is for those that I can hear in my head saying, oh, but I live in the city or I live in a suburb and I don't have access to live food. I don't have a backyard, for example. Or what are your suggestions? Because, I know, there's ways around it. Pot plant on your balcony or inside. There's sun somewhere, right? You can get sun and put a tomato plant in a pot, right? What are your suggestions?
My suggestions are to start with the being, to have the intention to connect, the desire. There's a desire and an intention. to sit with that in a yin way and allow it to come to you. And, you know, I had my hens party last year, and I got given this book, Plant Tribe, as a gift. It's just spawned this whole new project. In fact, behind, I can't reach it. I've got this cactus on my windowsill.
I know the one you're talking about. It's a
brain one. Let me
a brain one. Yeah, go for it. Get it. Because I loved it. I loved looking at it while I was using your office. Yeah.
You see that?
It's so good, yeah.
It's a brain cactus in a skull.
A skull, yeah.
And there's just something about taking care of things that we women really love. But I think it has to, you know, if we're constantly, what should I do? What should I do? What should I do? Nothing changes. Just more yang, more mind. But it's, you know, your audience, like my audience, we do too much already. We do enough. And so it's, how can I just sit back in myself? And maybe you do this in a meditation or set an intention for a yoga class, and you go, universe, God, great mother, whatever you want to call it, I'd like to be more connected to nature. I'd like to be able to communicate with you better. I want to learn to listen. And then, you know, like they say in the law of attraction, this rocket of desire goes out, and you wait, you watch, you look, you feel, okay, what might it be? Because you're right. You can be anywhere. You can be anywhere and connect with food, and it's levels. So if you're somebody who just whips out a TV dinner or a frozen dinner, microwaves it, and that's the amount of participation that you have in the production of your own food, then just going to the next level of maybe adding to that a little homemade salad. That's doing it, right? That's doing it. So it's more about the being. The cultivating of the way of being. That's actually what makes your whole life sacred.
Yeah.
It's really just bringing that yourself, your sacred self, to everything. And that feels so good just because it's generated from here. It comes from us, not something outside of us.
Absolutely, yeah. And is bringing pleasure back in, right? It's the, as you said, the joy, the communication. It's even when you know, so many women feel alone, and yet open up to that, open up to the salad, open up to, being and feeling that.
Well, what really helps, and this is a kind of another level, right, is to participate further down the chain. And so this, if you're already doing that, and you're kind of looking at us and saying, well, I'm already doing that. The next thing would be to go to a farmer's market and because I think it's really important to connect with farmers. I think it's such a joy to know the person who's grown. So if you can do that, and in the city we have farmers markets, maybe it's the Harris Farm, maybe it's even just knowing the grocer.
Yeah.
But it isn't that you're being good and buying, because most of the stuff at farmers markets, it isn't even organic, and a lot of it isn't even local. But you've taken an extra step, you've participated an extra step, and that participation helps you to increase your connection.
Yeah, and draws the next steps towards you, right? Like, yeah, absolutely. Oh, so much fun. And you can just feel that wholesomeness even talking about it, right? Like it's we went and got some keeper greens. So, the organic shop that is close to me that I found online was not open, but next step, that's today I can go and get some stuff from there. So,
yeah,
it's been such a pleasure.
As always, you're never quite sure what's going to come out of our heads, but
no, that's right.
I hope that it's been helpful to someone watching this, because there's always hope. There's always another step. There's always more to learn and to, to discover that joy and freedom that we're all longing for. And, I think if people are in our worlds, then they're already a long way down the track. And also, you and I we're in it too, but there's so much more to learn, right?
Oh, so much more. Absolutely. And those threads of awareness that we can follow, which is so exciting. I just love how connected this was to my pause on Monday. So
yeah.
Lovely.
Well, if anyone would like to reach out to find out more about the Sacred Nutrition class, I'm very happy to offer a little discount for your tribe
community. Oh, thank you.
Community, your movement.
Yeah,
I always think of bowels when I hear that word. It's not a natural right?
And I'm assuming they can go on a wait list, because you've just finished your last one for this month, so they can jump on a wait list.
If they're local to the Sydney area, I'm in the Hills district. If they're local-ish or in the Greater Sydney area, then coming to us here is the best option. There's just nothing beats that.
It was so beautiful. It was so much fun. And to have a young woman with us was nice. A mother and daughter came, yeah.
But so that's open. There's bookings open for that for the next couple of months, but the online ones haven't been launched yet, but that's a work in progress. So if somebody wants to go onto the waiting list for that, then I'm happy to take their names.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brenda. If you're watching, please put in the chat what your takeaways, what really inspired you or you connected with through this process, where you're at even, or where you want to be, and if you've got any questions, that would be awesome. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Elizabeth.